The story revolves around Bruce's journey after escaping Ark M, where he finally gets the chance to meet his mother. The mother, in a moment of overwhelming emotion, cannot hide her happiness when she learns that her son is still alive. However, that brief peace is quickly shattered when she reveals that Aussie is in critical condition after a brutal attack by Bane. Hearing the bad news, Bruce immediately rushes to the hospital, his heart filled with worry and fear. He wants to see the severity of everything with his own eyes, but when he arrives, the scene before his eyes is more painful than he could have imagined. Not only is Aussie fighting for his life, but Harvey is also in critical condition. Meanwhile, his friend Eddie, although not in the hospital, cannot escape the tragedy. After Bane brutally gouged out his eyes, he is connected to a super advanced mechanical system, turning him into a powerful artificial intelligence entity. Faced with the terrible truth that his loved ones were disfigured and damaged beyond recognition, Bruce felt a surge of anger, burning all his rationality. Bruce and Alfred went to one of his secret houses to prepare for the upcoming confrontation with Bane. The atmosphere in the house was so quiet that every breath could be heard, until the alarm system suddenly sounded, breaking the tense silence. Immediately, Alfred pulled out a machine gun from the safe, while Bruce held his guard. Both of them began to scan every dark corner for traces of the intruder, believing that Bane had struck first. But when the shadow appeared, they realized that the intruder was not Bane. The shimmering light reflected off Catwoman's black leather outfit and mischievous eyes. Quick as lightning, she used the whip to wrap around Alfred's neck, lifted him high, and threw him to the cold ground. Before she could react, Alfred collapsed, unconscious, and Bruce only had time to turn around to face her in a fighting stance. There was more than just a confrontation between the two, but also complex emotions that had never been spoken. The scene was followed by a flashback on the ship far away, where Bruce had held Selina tightly in his arms after reaching an agreement with the Falcon's family. In that memory, the two discussed Falcon's upcoming match with Juan. They both believed that Juan had no chance of winning, so they secretly broke into a series of apartments owned by the Falcons, taking a large amount of gold. They then agreed to return it only if the Falcons family gave Juan a fair chance in the upcoming match. The story shifted back to the present when Bruce asked Selina to explain the reason for her surprise visit. In a calm but firm tone, Selina replied that Bruce's mother, Martha, had contacted her. She explains that Martha has expressed deep concern about Bruce's condition, who has not been seen for months. Selina emphasizes that Martha is especially concerned about his health and hopes she can help. However, Bruce, with obvious suspicion, insists that Selina is not being truthful. He gives her one last chance to tell the truth, but Selina is adamant that her words are accurate, insisting that Martha did indeed contact him because of his prolonged disappearance. She expresses her desire to help, even if it is just a small act to ease the burden on his family. However, Bruce firmly refuses, asserting that he is perfectly capable of handling things on his own without her intervention. The atmosphere becomes tense when Alfred, who has just regained consciousness after a moment of unconsciousness, speaks up. In a stern tone, he warns that Selina, aka Catwoman, is not someone to be trusted. He emphasized that her presence was risky and not beneficial to anyone. Before Alfred could finish, Selina, with sharpness and subtlety, responded with a meaningful gesture, as if she was ready to leave, if she was not welcome. She sarcastically said that Bruce's team seemed talented enough without her presence. Alfred, undeterred, continues to argue that keeping Selina around is unwise, emphasizing her reputation for unreliability. Bruce, with unwavering determination, agrees with Alfred and declares that Selina must leave immediately. He asserts that he does not need any assistance in making decisions, and that her presence will only cause more trouble. Our story takes a whole new turn when we realize that Bruce possesses napkin folding skills as fast and skillful as the waiters at a 5-star restaurant. It is not easy to describe this story in full, but suffice it to say that Bruce and Selina spent an evening filled with joy and bonding. However, as dawn broke the next morning, the atmosphere became more serious. Selina, with her keen eyes, noticed the strange marks on Bruce's back and curiously asked him about what had happened at Arkham. The traces seemed to have a deep story, but Bruce was reluctant to share. Quickly redirecting the conversation, Bruce tactfully asked about Selina's helmet. He remarked that it seemed to be made with the same technology as the helmet of a mysterious figure who once wore a black mask. However, Selina was also not very enthusiastic about talking about her belongings, similar to how Bruce avoided mentioning the scars on his body. Their conversation had a strange balance, where both kept their secrets. Finally, Bruce broke the ice with a surprise question, asking if Selina would like to date him, followed by a few intimate kisses. But the seemingly romantic moment quickly turned dramatic. It turned out that when Bruce mentioned date, he was not simply talking about a romantic evening. When they arrived at the old amusement park covered in moss and dust of time, a heavy atmosphere filled the quiet space. This place used to be a bustling place of entertainment, but now, only the echoes of the past remained. Bruce and Selina quickly realized that their target was the notorious Red Hood gang, who were seeking power to expand their power. They hoped to convince this group to become allies in the upcoming war. However, when the two stepped out of the darkness, a series of cold eyes immediately turned towards them. The Red Hood members could not hide their hostility, their voices filled with resentment, recalling how Bruce had ordered them to fight against Absolute Bane and then left halfway. For them, such betrayal was not easily forgiven. However, Bruce did not come to provoke. He wanted to settle things, to prove that they could still start over. He made it clear that he and Selina would not leave this place until they met the leader of the Red Hood. But that goodwill only made the atmosphere more tense. In response, the Red Masked men immediately rushed forward, brandishing all kinds of weapons in anger. Facing the fierce attack, Batman moved as fast as the wind, using his bat tentacles to cling to the wooden beam above to avoid the attack. Selina took advantage of that moment to jump, take a higher position, and counterattack. When she landed, she pulled out her submachine gun, cleverly loading it with her tail, which was both a weapon and an extended magazine. Bullets flashed in the air, taking down each enemy in an instant. However, in the midst of the chaos, Batman stopped, his eyes filled with panic. He shouted to Selina what she was doing because now he realized that the people lying at their feet were not cruel criminals, but just lost children drawn into the wrong path of Red Hood. Although Selina has no sympathy for children, she gently reassures Bruce that everything is fine, as she only used a sleeping dart to handle the situation. However, just a few moments later, the situation becomes more tense when Bruce discovers a man armed with an RPG standing on top of the Ferris wheel ready to attack. With quick reflexes, Bruce pushes Selina out of harm's way, protecting her from the threat. Immediately after, for the first time, he activates the venom flowing through his body, a sudden source of power that makes him stronger than imagined. With that power, Bruce throws a powerful punch at the Ferris wheel, causing the entire structure to shake violently, almost toppling over completely. The man with the RPG loses his balance, misses his target, and falls into the water below. Stunned by Bruce's extraordinary ability, Selina, as Catwoman, rushes to his side to check on his condition. However, she quickly realizes that Bruce's mental state is not stable. He just coldly signaled that she should leave, get away from him as quickly as possible to ensure her safety. But when other members of the Red Hood gang began to appear from the shadows, Selina was determined not to leave Bruce. She stood firmly by his side, her voice full of determination, advising him to listen to her to control himself. She compared him to the Hulk, being dominated by emotions and power, and emphasized that he needed to restrain himself before things got out of control, leading to more serious consequences. Selina's determination not only showed loyalty, but also an effort to pull Bruce back from his own dangerous edge. At that moment, most of the Red Hood gang still had the intention of overthrowing Bruce, especially after learning that he had been an experimented subject at Ark M. Their eyes were filled with suspicion and anger, ready to erupt into conflict at any moment. Standing in the midst of the tense siege, Bruce took a deep breath, choosing to lower his own defenses. He no longer hid anything, revealing the hurt and fatigue that weighed on his mind, hoping to be able to calm them down. He said that the reason he had asked them to stop was not because he was weak, but because he feared they would suffer the same fate as those who were turned into monsters by Ark M, brutal entities like Bane. He admitted that the place had almost destroyed him both physically and mentally, but because he refused to give in, he found the reason to stand up again. Now, Bruce vowed to wipe out that entire Dark Empire, not allowing them to inflict any more pain. Those words changed the atmosphere. The silence lasted for a long time before a familiar voice rang out from behind the Red Hoods. Their leader stepped out, her lips curled into a smile that was both insane and seductive. The light shone on her messy blonde hair and sharp eyes that belonged to none other than Harley Quinn. She calmly declared that if Bruce truly wanted to end Arkham once and for all, then she and the rest of the Red Hoods would stand by his side in this fight. He was then transferred to Arkham, where Bane was still being subjected to horrific experiments. His body had reached an abnormally large size, but the doctors continued to pump fluids, causing his veins to swell to the point of bursting. Arkham stood behind thick glass, his eyes full of complacency, applauding the results the research team had achieved. He said that they had pushed Bane's limits beyond what humans could imagine, making him a testament to the twisted evolution that Arkham had always wanted to create. Despite his enormous size, Bane was not concerned about his appearance, but was focused on capturing Batman. He believed that capturing Batman would help him complete his mission, thereby returning to the place he called home. Meanwhile, Arkham suspected that the Joker would not easily free Bane, even if Batman fell into their hands. Complex calculations and dark plots are looming over Gotham, making the atmosphere more tense than ever. Just a few minutes later, a doctor at the control center informed Dr. Arkham of an important discovery that needed to be looked into immediately. It was a moment when the whole city was shocked, when Bruce, in the name of Batman, appeared in a live broadcast across Gotham. He announced that the city was under attack by the very leaders who betrayed Gotham. abused their power for personal gain. Worse, they even sold the land below the city, where they secretly created terrifying monsters beyond anyone's imagination. Bruce continued to reveal that he had previously tried to wake everyone up by exposing the Black Mask, the symbol of lies. However, he admitted that his biggest mistake was putting his trust in the city's network system, which was manipulated. This time, he was determined not to repeat that mistake. With a determined tone, Bruce announced that he would bring one of the monsters to light for all of Gotham to witness. He pledged to destroy that monster before everyone's eyes, as an affirmation that justice will be served, despite all the conspiracies surrounding it. The challenger was none other than Bane, who announced that he would enter the duel at midnight tomorrow. He coldly declared that if he won, those watching could transform him into any form they wanted. Before ending the live broadcast, Bane said only one sentence that stunned everyone. He was Batman. And the screen went black, leaving the audience in utter chaos and confusion. Then, the story brought us back to an emotional flashback. At that time, Bruce and Selina confessed to Juan that they had secretly bribed the Falcon family, helping him advance to the 7th round of the tournament further than anyone expected. For Bruce, it was the best choice, because he believed that Juan could leave the ring with honor, at the same time receive enough money to open a new gym, start a new journey after glory. But after hearing all the confessions, Juan could not hide his disappointment. He looked at Bruce, his eyes mixed with anger and heartache. He said that the reason he chose Bruce was not because of strategy or talent, but because of friendship, because of the belief that Bruce believed in his true ability. And now, realizing that everything was just a setup, Juan felt betrayed. He firmly announces the termination of the contract and affirms that he will no longer have anything to do with Falcon, one of Bruce's secret bases. He and Selina are discussing the location of the upcoming confrontation with Bane. Concerned about the potential risks, Selina seriously asks Bruce if he can promise not to use the venom in his body. She explains that it is exactly what the people in Arkham want, to manipulate and control him. Selina has witnessed the devastating effects that venom can have on humans, and she has promised herself that she will never put herself or others at risk. In her opinion, the price is not worth the trade-off. However, Bruce firmly believes that the venom is the only weapon that can give him the upper hand against Bane. He recounts that when confronting the Red Hood gang, the venom enhanced his abilities, allowing him to predict every move of his enemies and stay dozens of steps ahead of them. He believes that if he learns to control this power, he will be able to defeat Bane. However, Selina disagrees, emphasizing that using venom is a dangerous idea. She also wants to destroy Bane, but not at the expense of Bruce's humanity. Despite Selina's objections, Bruce cannot erase the memory of what Bane has done to his friends. With burning determination, he insists that he will use venom no matter what. He looks straight at Selina, saying that if she cannot accept this decision, maybe it is time for her to leave. Bruce's words not only show his determination, but also reveal the pain and loneliness in his journey to fight for justice, where he is faced with harsh choices to protect Gotham. After Selina leaves, Alfred stands by Bruce, firmly supporting his decision. He emphasizes that in the current situation, when all risks are at their highest, even a moment of hesitation can lead to defeat. Alfred advises Bruce to completely abandon the weak, hesitant person of the past, and be reborn as an invincible warrior, ready to face any challenge. In this war, according to Alfred, the only rule is to win, no matter the cost. He believes that only fierceness and uncompromisingness can help Bruce overcome a powerful enemy like Bane. It is at this point that the story reveals the return of Killer Croc, a mysterious and dangerous character. Bruce, hoping to mend the relationship or seek allies, leaves behind the chests of meat as a gesture of reconciliation. He believes that this action can open up an opportunity for both sides to make up for past conflicts. However, Killer Croc's return does not bring the sign of reconciliation that Bruce hoped for. Sadly, this is also where the story ends, leaving a haunting ending where hope and danger intertwine, leaving Gotham's future more uncertain than ever.